Hey, my name is Shea, and I'm an interior designer, and I'm so excited to share a soulful conversation today.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl Chiarenza with Women's Successful Living, and you are listening to the new Soulful Self-Care Conversations show with myself, Pearl, and I have a very special guest that is joining us today. But one of the reasons why we changed the name of the show is because we do really have these great conversations around self-care, and I really want it to touch your soul. I really want you to take some time out, grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, maybe listen with a girlfriend, and just sit back and listen to other women and other stories of how we also struggle with putting ourselves first. We struggle with everyday challenges, raising families, working a job, running a business, but we have to be compassionate, take care of ourselves. And so today, we're actually going to talk with our special guest. Her name is Shea Bryars, and she's an interior designer familiar with all aspects of designing and building a home. As a principal designer of Shea Bryars Design, she is adept at both the interior space and planning architecture of our home, as well as the creative details such as fabric and furniture selection. And for me, I struggle with that often. So having an interior designer is so powerful because after graduating from Auburn University with her degree in interior design, Shea began her career as an NKBA designer for firms in Atlanta and Birmingham. Her success was fueled by the love of her work. In 2002, she became Southern Accents and Southern Living magazine's Idea House Manager. How cool is that?
Yeah,
It's so cool. Her exceptional opportunity that has she experienced intricates of interior design through building and furnishing ideal homes. She began partnering with various contractors in Birmingham, performing a myriad of designs duties on construction and remodels. And she has honed those skills in designing and structuring a home. And in 2014, she formed her own firm, Shea Bryars Design. She is also blessed with the unique ability to quickly visualize, draw, and communicate design for her clients, which I don't have that little knack at all. And this gift is coupled with her extensive experience in what distinguishes her from her competitors. And her balance of candor and good humor create a dynamic partnership between client and designer that is decisive and productive. So her work is described as timeless yet current. And she has a portfolio that stretches from Southern traditional to modern contemporary. So she is definitely passionate about keeping the vision of each individual project loyal to the client's preferences, resulting in a home that reflects our family's individual lifestyle and taste. And today, coincidentally, we are talking about vision and visualizing, our life and our home is a part of that big visual. So I want to thank you, Shea, for coming and joining us today.
yes, thanks for having me. I'm real excited.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I didn't tell Shay this secret, but for those of you who are listening, I have a really cool thing. It just came to me in the middle of the holidays. Like we're recording this at the beginning of the year of 25. And so during the holidays, I do this, people talk about vision boards and creating these visions and stuff like that. And so I have something unique that's coming out before the end of January for those that really like to put it to paper. But as I was doing it, I was thinking about you coming on the show today. I remembered that, sometimes we need help and guidance with the laying it all out and visualizing that, right? And we're going to talk about that, how it applies to our life. Because I sent 3 versions of what I put together to my girlfriend and be like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? She's like, you're not allowed anymore. Pick one.
Yeah, crowdsourcing.
Yeah. So, but before we get started about, visualizing our life and what you do and how you help, create that home that is truly like for our inner selves and the way our family lives. I always like to do this thing with my guests, and that is going back and really looking and seeing, what life was like for you, that little girl, like that little Shea when she was little, like what was life like and what did she want to grow up to be? And then how does it correlate to what you're doing today? So introduce us, if you will, for a few minutes to little Shea and let her share with us, like, what was it you were passionate about? What did you want to do when you grew up? And then introduce us, bring us back to you and tell us how it compares to what you're doing today.
Okay. So I am an only child. So I grew up having to be very creative and to entertain myself. I didn't obviously have siblings. I did live in the great 80s, where, playing with the kids down the street was what you did. You left in the morning and you came back when it was dark. And so the younger me was just very creative with my time. I mean, I remember creating a hospital room for my baby dolls, filling sandwich bags up with water and a string coming down, taping it to their arm like it was the IV, and the closet was the elevator, and um, for the hospital. My friend and I would go and steal rose petals from the neighbor's garden and make perfume out of it, mashing the petals with water. And I was just very creative with my time when I was younger. And also, I guess, learned at a very early age how to communicate with adults, and um, perhaps sort of set me up for sales, so to speak. And also, my mom loved home design. Like, I grew up in a home that was always thought about. She had designers that worked for her. To me, this was normal. I honestly never really had a necessarily passion for any of that as a young child. It was just part of my surroundings, part of sort of who we were. And not even that my parents were especially wealthy. It was just something that meant something to her. And now looking back, I think that's where my appreciation definitely started, with a beautiful home, and one that sort of looks like you. And so I actually started because my mother worked. She was a single mom for a lot of time, and then worked, besides that, in business. She really believed, in strong, independent women that worked hard. And so I started as an accounting major, which is like a huge joke to all of those that know me now. But and my roommate actually in college was an interior design major, and I just was like, what are you doing? Like, this is what I want to do for my homework. And I'm an artist. I was God-given talent, able to draw anything. I mean, it's not bragging when it's a gift. It just, I can draw. And so that was just how I transitioned really into that degree. And now my mom is still very much a part of all of that, like how I got to this. And she does sets her tables all the time still, and no one's there to eat from them. She loves, she sends me pictures of them. And um so I think I just was raised in it, and learned to, like, talk to people as an only child, at a really young age.
I think that's so cool, and it's really neat that you talk about, you're creative, and like, the person I interviewed just before you, she was talking about, she's an author, and she's a graphic designer. She talked about how the dollhouses, like she can remember
Oh,
the dollhouses, right? And
yes.
you described the hospital room you created. I'm like, oh my gosh, she went and got the string for the IV. How cool! Like, that's so
I know.
eye
Well,
for
and
detail.
I have an obsession with dollhouses. Um, I don't have the time, but when I retire, I have a dollhouse that my grandfather built, and it's at my mom's house. And when I retire, I'm going to do the dollhouse. I'm going to do the floors. I'm going to electrify it. I follow all these dollhouse designers. Like, I have a file on Pinterest of dollhouses. I love the dollhouses.
I
So
love
that's
that.
right there.
So
Yeah.
cool. But I think it, like you said, it goes to what that little girl, little Shay, like, and she's taken that and making, creating beautiful homes and environments, and things for
Yes.
families and others, that that they, like you said, that the home is the way they want it to be, that they've
Right.
created the home life they want. And for somebody like me, like, I love color, and I love, but sometimes, like, my husband laughs at me, he goes, "Why did you put that color on the wall?" I'm like, "'Cause it just spoke to me, So
Yeah.
he just kind of laughs, and but I love to, like, do stuff. Especially at Christmas time. Like, it's not interior design, you guys just trust me. But my house at Christmas time is like winter wonderland. But that's
Yes.
who I am. It's like, it's cheerful, it's joy. And this year, 2 years ago, this is our third Christmas without our son, who passed in July of 2022. And so last year we didn't really do anything. The first year, his girlfriend, who he was was dating, when he passed, she was here. So she put everything out, and I was like, oh, and she moved to New Jersey. I missed her last year because she's like me at Christmas time. Right. And so now, everything's out this year. We bought back into it, but my husband laughs because I'm like, oh, I think I need this. Like literally, Shay, you're gonna laugh. They have these elastic covers for your doors. So I actually got a couple elastic covers and put them on my doors. It's so hilarious. I got Rudolph and all this stuff, but it's just, like you said, for me, it just brings joy, right? And so when I think about what you do and putting things together, like that process of understanding, what do you want in your home? What's that feeling you want to, because we're in our home a lot, and if you work out of the house, you want to come home to that sanctuary,
peace.
right? Yeah, that peace. So I think it's really neat that little girl is doing that today, and then your mom, like you got some. I loved how you also got pieces from different people, like your mom, the roommate, your own creativity, right? And so those that are listening, that's why you have to hone into what are those things you love to do, because that's if you're working a job you don't like to do, maybe you have to reassess what is it you like to do. And is there something you can do in that field of what you love to do? Because, like you said, when you retire, you're going to go do this dollhouse. You have to send us all pictures because I can't wait to see it.
I know.
Yeah. So now when you think about a home, like visualizing, we're one of the things we're at the beginning of the year, people talk about vision boards and, about creating that vision, of what that house looks like. And, some people have just, at the end of the year, that's when a lot of times people buy houses because they got to write off taxes and make changes. So when you do that, like I know as a coach for myself, like there's questions I ask, like what brings you joy? We work on things like, writing your joy list and identifying that. What are some of the steps you go through with your clients to help them visualize the house they want and the feeling they want?
So I mean, really the vision board is a very good parallel for sort of how I do that. Um, there's an interview sort of process when we walk through the space that we're working on, and sometimes it's on a floor plan. It's not even built yet, but and we talk about like how do you want to use the space, like starting with that before we even get to where you see it, looking like. Do you see the family playing games, board games in here or card games, while dad's on the sofa watching a football game? Or do how do you want to use the space? Do you need an office where it allows you to be on a podcast, and does that require natural light or, all these different uses is so important. And then we sort of hone into, the feeling that you want it to give you, because a lot of times your bedroom, you want it to feel spa-like or peaceful or calming. Whereas your office, you may want a lot of light and energy and a way to have music and, or not, depending on what you do. But so I think before we ever get to the actual look, it's the use and the feeling and then the vision. And really Pinterest is an incredible tool for my business. Because there's no new ideas. There's just a new way to do an old one. So I always ask for my clients to create an inspiration folder, whether it's on Pinterest or magazines or photographs or fabric samples or anything that just feels inspiring to them. I think everybody has something where they like feel the energy in their soul happen. I mean, it could be for somebody, it might be a horse in a field, or, for me, it's like art. It gets me excited. And then we try to take that sort of inspiration and hone it in. And then we're talking about color, and then we're talking about, the size of the people using the room, and the scale of the scale of the space, the scale of the furniture, the scale of the lighting. And so sort of start really big, and then the vision is kind of the last thing we do.
It's so interesting how that all correlates to life too.
Yeah.
Like it really does. It's like, you think, how do I want to use this? About using the space. How do you want to use the space of your life? Like, what is that?
Right.
Pick it up. Right. And like how does that feel to me? That, how does it, I do every year, we do a vision event, and we usually do a vision purse. So you create this, how you're going to, it's going to look on your purse, like how you want that purse to feel. I love that you share about how's that space want to feel like you said, like, do you need an office? Do you want a space for self-care? Do you want it just your own little, serene room that nobody else comes in but you? How does that look? And like you said, lighting, like we forget to go down to the nitty gritty of like the little things, yesterday, so we downsized. We had a 4,000 square foot house, and we almost 4,400 square foot. We downsized 4 years ago to about 3,000, not 3,000 square foot. And so when you walk in from our front door to our living room area where we hang out, there's this one spot, there's like a half bathroom in there. And in front of that half bathroom, there's this little area. It's like, if you don't have the kitchen light on and the hall light on, it's kind of dark. And like my girlfriend was standing there yesterday. I was like, every time I look at that, they really need a light right there. Like a detailed light, like right. And so you don't think about those things unless you have somebody design. Because I jokingly said, whoever designed that space did not pay attention to details, So it's
right. And that is super common.
Yeah.
Super common.
And then I love how once you put that together, like, what's the vision? Then you start doing the Pinterest board, creating that board of what that house looks like, and when you do vision boards, your home is one piece, one part of that vision board that you have to create. I mean, because you want a good home life, because a good home life, a good self-care, all equals into having, that inspirational life that you talk about, the inspirational folder. Like, what's that look like for you? It's so powerful.
Well, and I think too, like you want to come home to something that doesn't stress you out, that the clutter has a place to be, or your kitchen is well working, so that when you come home and cook for your family, you're not frustrated because there's nowhere to sit the pot, or, you have, like, for me, example, I have 3 teenagers that are the size of, grown adults. Like, is there room for all of us to sit in the same family room and be comfortable, or are we cramped and then they don't really want to hang out with me? Like, those are all like real emotional feelings that your home affects. And that makes having someone like me important, because there are things that, that I can think about. Like you said, like the lighting, like we do electrical walkthroughs, we draw electrical floor plans, we do, layer the lighting. We don't just have the recessed, we have the recessed, the decorative sconce, the shelf, all the layers of the lighting. So yeah, it's all very important, and it's often seen as such a luxury, but it's really, I compare it to hair. I'm wearing it every day. So yes, it costs a lot, but I wear it every day. I mean, the house is sort of the same thing. This is where your soul is free to be itself. Like, this is important, the space.
I like how you said that. It's like your hair, you wear it every day. It's so true, because you come home and, it's like the one thing that I'm learning as we downsize, we downsize smaller, but everything is much more like clutter gets to me much faster now, because the bigger house, it was spread out. I didn't see it as much. So now it's like, it's like, and I remember when, we first moved here, like my husband's like, he calls it, what's he called? He calls it the white space unit. So there's like this, you walk in, because like mail would be put everywhere, or just junk stuff, right? So you walk in. So I was like, I need something to go there. So it's literally like this. It's got two legs, it's got 4 legs, and it's got these 3 cubby holes, but the cubby hole is sort of like, it's got like a little tilt inside of it. And so I put whites, those white fabric sorters, in there. So one is for the dog's leash and the dog stuff, and the one is car keys, and and the other one is the junk one. Just put the junk there, and we'll clean that out when we get to clean it out, right? So, and if it doesn't fit in there, then it can't go in there. You got to take something out.
Wait.
Yeah. So that was the whole thing. Like, and in our closet, like when we moved here, we had a large master closet, and now we have maybe a quarter of the closet, right? So it's like, okay, I had to get rid of a lot of my clothes, and stuff. And so one thing that I went through with when my son passed, my grief showed up as I kept buying clothes. Like, I didn't want to go in my closet. I just didn't want to organize it. So that's where my self-care when, grief was showing up. So I had to call and ask for help. My friend is an organizer. I came in, so she came in, it's like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's design up your closet. So, it's so important to have somebody like you and even organizers.
Yes.
Yeah, because like you said, how's it going to flow? How's it going to feel good? Like when you walk in the door, how's your kitchen? That's the other part too. I was like, I love my kitchen, but I realize I miss my big island.
Yes.
So I keep telling myself, I want to put an island here. We don't need an island. When you're going to put I could get a small one, like right here. It's like, oh, and so, and I have friends, the 100-Day Dream Home. Are you familiar with that space here in Tampa? So I know them through different circles. And so they helped me design my patio. They gave me a person to help me design my patio. When we moved in here, and I was like, I told him one day, I'm just going to call them and be like, can you come tell me how I could put an island in here? And then he'll go, listen, if I come home and there's something else here, we're going to have, because every time you leave, I do
something new. Yeah.
I paint a wall, or I do it's like, I'm like, I don't so want you here because I'm going to do it. And I don't want to hear you complain why I'm doing it.
I was going to say, he better quit leaving.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's quit leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you as you go through this process, and like you said, there's Pinterest and putting those different things together, where do you find that people struggle? What area of their home do they seem to struggle a lot with designing?
I think honestly, the family room is the hardest. The thing that people struggle the most with as an umbrella is scale. The scale of a rug, the scale of the furniture, the scale of the lighting. Usually I walk into someone's home and the first thing I see is the rug is too small, the lighting is too small, the furniture, like for example, I went to a house this morning, every piece of furniture is on legs, nothing skirted. So it feels like there are people dancing everywhere, like there's nothing grounded. So you just feel like, and her rugs were too small. And so that is the sort of, as an umbrella, the biggest problem. But probably the biggest problem is in the family rooms. That people are really in love with sectionals. Sectionals don't fit in every room. They're very imposing. They block off traffic. Most grown adults don't want to sit with other grown adults on a sofa. They just don't. I mean, two men are not going to sit next to each other on a sofa. So that is probably the thing I'm always trying to fix is the lack of scale, and then the seating areas for families in family rooms. And we live in the South, so like we do a lot of football Saturdays, lots of people over around the television. So that is very important, for our region as far as gatherings go.
I'm laughing as you're talking because you said three things that are like my room.
Sectional.
I'm laughing, going, well, we have a small, it's a small family room. So no matter where we're setting furniture at, like where are you going to put the TV at? Because we just have like we have like two walls, like a mini half wall, because it's by the stairs and the closet on the other side. So it's like, where are we going to put, where are you going to hang your TV? So if I hang my TV on that wall ahead, then I got to have a couch, and it feels like it blocks up the flow, which I had started with. And then, and so finally I'm like, we just got to get a sectional. We just got to get, one that's
more seating.
Yeah. And we decided not to get a recliner one because we were finding that we got the recliner one. It took up more room from the room because it's spread out. So, but my husband loves his recliner. So we actually got him, because he has hip problems. We actually got him one of those recliners where it stands up for you. So,
I've seen that.
So it's perfect. You got it at, I forget the local store here, and it's leather, and it went really well with, both pieces of furniture are leather. And so the sectional, I was laughing because, so it's just my husband and I at home. We've got a friend staying with us for a little bit, but my sons, my one son had passed, Matt, he's got three buddies that come over and hang out with us all the time. And the other day they were over for Christmas, and I'm like, just sit here. And they're like, well, I'll sit over here. They sit on the little chair, the little dinette we have, and they sit in the dinette. I'm like, why don't you sit over here? Well, Josh is there. I'm like, oh, you guys don't want to sit next to each other. I was like going, oh my God, that's why they didn't want to sit next to each other.
Yep.
So, yeah, so it's so true. But and then I'm proud to say I think my rug is big enough. I think it's
Oh,
perfectly
good.
big enough. I'm happy for that. And I don't that and then the other thing we kept in the room is we have this velvet. So the sectional on my husband's chair is like a leather kind of feel.
Yeah.
And we have this blue velvet and they're like gray. And then we have this blue velvet chair that when we set up the house originally before we got this furniture, I fell in love with this blue velvet chair. And the funny thing is, everybody loves to sit in that chair. And I said to my husband, I go, we should have just got a couch and two of those blue velvet chairs
Yeah.
over here. It would have just been, it would have been perfect, because nobody's here that often.
Does
So
it swivel?
yeah,
The blue dog?
swivels.
That's always the favorite. The swivel.
Yeah, everybody sits in that chair. So it's so funny that you mentioned that.
Yep.
So now when you do sit down and work with, creating that vision and like going back to like using the space and how it feels, like I can just imagine, like, as people start walking through this, what are some of the ahas that they take away from, like, you give them ideas and they think, oh my gosh, I never thought about it that way. What are some ahas you see with design that people maybe forget about?
Um, so one thing I think I have to talk people into is, um, like a lot of times we'll do a furniture plan where you're looking down like a floor plan, but of a layout for furniture. And a lot of times people are like, no, this is too close to that, or those are, that looks like we can't travel around in that space. And what I have to talk people into is we live better than what something looks like on plan. So there's more room than what you can draw to scale. And a lot of times I will say, let's just wait till you're living there to do anything, because it's very hard for people to visualize how things live next to each other. Also, one thing that is very common is the kitchen work triangle. I don't know who invented that phrase, but it doesn't apply anymore. Partly because we have so many small appliances now. Like, we're no longer just a one refrigerator, oven, sink world. We have under counter refrigerators, we have under counter ice makers, we have prep sinks and the island and the real sinks under the window. And, so we really don't operate under a work triangle anymore. But people are real hung up on that. They just can't stop thinking about it. So I'm a kitchen designer. I specialized in kitchen design. So that is really hard to get people to sort of come out of the box on that and see that, your refrigerator being over there is okay because we've got this over here. It's really just a shift in thought. And then the other thing, honestly, just in that same vein, HGTV has done us such a disservice for design. And I love the shows. I love all the concept, but the budgeting is so far-fetched off. Nothing is that inexpensive. It's just not. And that, I think, really has done a disservice to our clients. I mean, truly, like, people come and have no idea what things cost. I mean, it's just, well, they did a whole house renovation for $100,000. And you're like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. It's just, so that's another one that's, you really have to
Those
work
are
on.
points. You're like touching at my heart for all different kinds of things. Like, I'm a big HGTV girl, but I also
Yeah.
think realistically going, yeah, no, because we also are the house we moved down from. We bought it. We were the second owner, and when we moved out, it was, let's see, we were there 17 years. So it was about 40 years old, the house altogether. So we probably split it between the two owners almost. And so when we bought it, I called my girlfriend in Virginia. I'm like, just so you know, we're buying in the Golden Girls home. And we happen to be in Florida, but like,
Yeah.
you walked in, it was all mauve and pink. Remember that
Yeah.
the country, yeah,
Mhm.
all that stuff. And so, like, and then they put the wallpaper on the drywall, and so it was like it was terrible to get off and stuff. And so to redo all of that, it was crazy. But I remember the cost to do that. I'm like going, that was 20 years ago. Like you said,
Yeah.
I actually was watching a show the other day. I'm like, No way.
Uh-uh.
Like there's no way that can be, factual. And the cost of
It's,
everything today is just outrageous too. Yeah.
it is.
And then you also caught my heart because the kitchen here, that my thing was we wanted to be in the neighborhood we're in. Like we love it's a walking neighborhood. We're getting older. We can walk up to restaurants, there's little markets and stuff like that. So and I love, that that we have a first floor master, everybody else is upstairs. But one of the things that the kitchen, every time I go into my oven, I've always had double oven, but this oven is on the left side of the refrigerator and it's hard to get in. I'm short. So it's
Oh,
hard to get in there I can't really get around the side and reach in because the
yeah.
refrigerator's right there, And so, yeah, when you're talking about like, yeah, that whole triangle design does not work anymore. I
Mm-mm.
totally with you. Yeah.
It doesn't.
No. And yeah, that's so I remember when we did our other house that we moved from, we redesigned the kitchen. It was crazy because the pantry was down the hall in the laundry room. And so
Oh,
my friend, he was a new home construction builder in Virginia. So he helped me design the house. And I'm like, I need a pantry. So we put that all together and everything. So it was interesting how things have evolved over the
yeah.
years and such, and so I love that you share that to get people to grasp, but stop watching HGTV, watch it for fun,
Or yes.
watch it
Yeah.
for fun, but don't think that, and I'm sure they would even tell you, I mean, and some of those are filmed like 2-3 years ago. So
Yeah.
class has changed and we forget those pieces of the pie for sure.
Yeah.
So Shay, I know you and I talked before, but with what you do, like you're local there, do you help people that are like not in your town? Like how do you help your clients that are maybe not local?
Yes. So I do virtual design. Basically, the way it works is we do it sort of like by room and have different fees, single room, multiple room, whatever. And you it kind of works two ways. If you don't, want to pay for me to travel, we can also just do it virtually where you will send me just your rough measurements of the space. And then we do the whole process the same way we would if I met you in person. Whether it's a kitchen design, bath design, or furniture or whole house. And I can provide all of the things and selections that you need just online. It's amazing. Great. I love to travel as well, but a lot of times, that can be cost prohibitive for some people to have me come back and forth. And so sometimes it may be one or two meetings and everything else was online. So yeah, we're working hard at doing more of that because it's, your audiences can grow that way. And I've been doing this in Birmingham for 27 years and have a great reputation, but it gets smaller the longer you're here. And we're blessed because we do live where school zones are decided by where you live. And so these houses are just getting older. So we do a lot of remodeling here. But yeah, we can work anywhere.
So tell everybody how they can reach out to you if they want to reach out to you and tap into your creativeness and
Yeah.
questions or work with you. We'll also put everything in the show notes, but tell everybody how they can reach out to you.
Okay, great. I'm very active on Instagram at Shea Bryars Design, SheaBryars Design. I post pretty much every day there and I try to make it pretty educational. And if you are interested in services, you can DM me through that. And also my website is SheaBryersDesign.com. We haven't updated it in a little while. The portfolio on there is fairly current, but my Instagram is really where we keep things updated. And then I'm also on Facebook, Shea Bryars Design. So pretty much if you just type in Shea Bryars Design on Google, you'll find me.
And we'll add that to all the show notes for everybody as well and everything. So first of all, I just want to say thanks. So this has been so much fun. It really does tie into, we're at the beginning of the year when we recorded this and, 2025, we're kicking off and, it is true. We have to think about not just our home, but in our life, like how are we using the space of our life? How are you, how do you want it to feel, and then how do you envision it? And that's putting that together, like creating your Pinterest board for your home, for your life, or, whatever that is. It's really important to have that vision and to find ways to put that in place because without a vision and what they say, without a goal, you're just moving along. Right. And
That's right.
if you have a vision and a goal, you've got some things to work for. You can have some action steps to do that. And that's what you help everybody do, is like create those action steps to having a beautiful home and making it what you want to be, just like we have to make our life what we want it to be. And so I'm so glad we had this conversation. But before we let Shea go, I did let her know we're going to do our Better Questions, Better Life cards. So we're going to shuffle these, and Shea, you're going to tell me when to stop, and then we'll answer the question. Ready?
Okay.
So tell me when to stop.
Okay, now.
Oh, you said, your card says, what if my inner voice is right? What if your inner voice is right?
So that could be answered a number of ways. Here's what I'm learning about my inner voice. I think a lot of times in really any situation, you have a gut feeling about something, and there are red flags and green flags. And the more I'm mature, the more I'm trusting my inner voice. Even with clients, often if I have a client that goes poorly down the road, I knew that pretty much the day I met them that it was going to. So I think it's an art of intentionally listening to that inner voice. I personally believe the inner voice is this Holy Spirit. And I think it's there for a reason, and it's a gift. And so that's a great question. And I think the answer is that I'm working very hard at listening to it.
I think that's so powerful. It's so true. Like trusting your gut, that is truly your inner voice. And I'm with you. I believe it's a divine intervention in some way in there. And, and we have to listen to it. And, and there's so many examples. We don't even have time to go through today that I can say, oh, I listened to it then. I didn't listen to it then, those examples. So I totally agree with you. Thank you so much for being open and vulnerable, for sharing that. And, and again, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank you for sharing, and we'll make sure everybody knows how to reach out to you. And so everybody who's listening to us, make sure you like and subscribe below. Make sure you share our show with all your friends and family. Grab a cup of tea with your best girlfriend and sit back and listen to Shea share how you can design your home to make it a space that feels like the vision you've been wanting to create. And so with that,
thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I want to remind everybody, you come into this world, you are a rough oyster on the outside. You've got some work to do, but as you open up that shell inside, you're going to find your inner pearl of greatness. And I hope you go out today and do that. Have a great day. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I just want Shea to come in my house and organize and decorate my whole house. But I just want to, remind you, like Shea was saying, how are you using the space of your life to create the vision that you want? We think we have to just put it on a board and it all happens, right? You have to have somebody help you design your life. And that is truly what a coach like myself does, is to help you start designing and creating that roadmap of the life that you want to create for yourself. We talk about the spaces you're using, whether it's your financial space, your health and wellness space, your relationship space, where are you showing up in those spaces, and how are you designing those? And how are you feeling about them? Are you feeling that they're on the right path? And if they're not, how can we create that roadmap and really get you on the path to that success that you see in that vision? Because truly at the end, that's the vision. What is the vision? What is the goal you want? So if that's something that you are struggling with, we recorded this at the beginning of the year. This is the time that everybody sits back and talks about their vision and where I want to go. And I'm really excited to announce that we have a great new tool that's coming out that is going to help you map that out. It's something you can, carry with you in your purse. It's a really great magazine that you will be able to create your vision inside and put whatever pictures you want in there, write out your goals, take some time to journal, and take some time for self-care as well with it, because there's some great coloring pages inside of it. So if it's something you want to grab, all you have to do is email Coach Pearl at wsliving.com. That's Coach Pearl at wsliving.com. And I will get you the link, because we don't even have the link out yet. So this is the big surprise. So when we recorded this, it's in the process of being created and printed for you. So if you're ready to have an interactive way to work on your vision, just email Coach Pearl at wsliving.com, and in the comments, just put vision. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you continue to be the Shea that you are.